Hook. Here's what most sprinters get wrong in the weight room. They train for size instead of speed. A bigger squat does not make you faster. Rate of force development does. And those are not the same quality. Studies consistently show that peak force during sprinting has a correlation with sprint times, but the correlation for rate of force development, how quickly you can produce force, is stronger. The fastest sprinters in the world are not necessarily the strongest. They're the most explosively efficient. That distinction changes everything about how you should be lifting. Section: What strength qualities actually predict sprint speed? There are 3 qualities that matter in the weight room for sprinters: peak force, rate of force development, and reactive strength. Peak force is your maximum strength, a heavy squat, a loaded deadlift. It matters, but it's a foundation, not the ceiling. Once you have adequate peak force, roughly a 1.5x bodyweight deadlift or 1.75x squat is a reasonable collegiate benchmark, chasing more absolute strength gives diminishing returns on speed. Rate of force development, or RFD, is how fast you go from 0 to maximum force. Sprint contacts are roughly 80 to 120 milliseconds at top speed. Your max force might take 600 milliseconds to develop. You never get there. What gets you there is how much force you can produce in those 80 to 120 milliseconds, RFD. Reactive strength is your ability to rapidly absorb and redirect force, the stretch shortening cycle. Plyometrics develop this. Lifting develops it only partially. That's why your weight room work and your plyometric work need to coexist. Section: The 4 lifts with the strongest evidence base. Let's cut through the noise. Squats versus deadlifts versus power cleans all have defenders. Here's what the research actually supports. Number 1, trap bar deadlift. The trap bar allows a more vertical torso and a force vector that maps closely to the drive phase of sprinting. A 2017 study in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found that trap bar deadlifts produced higher peak force and power than straight bar variations. For sprinters, the movement pattern and the reduced lower back stress make it the deadlift variation of choice. Load it heavy. Move it fast. Number 2, hip thrust. The hip thrust has the strongest hip extension specificity of any lift for sprint mechanics. A 2019 study by Contreras and colleagues showed significant correlations between hip thrust strength and sprint performance. Glute activation in the hip thrust is higher than in squats or deadlifts. The horizontal force vector matches acceleration mechanics directly. 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps at 80 to 85% of max effort. Number 3, rear foot elevated split squat, also called the Bulgarian split squat. Single leg strength is critical for sprinters because sprinting is a single leg sport. Bilateral squats train bilateral patterns. The Bulgarian split squat builds unilateral force production, addresses asymmetries, and loads the hip flexor of the rear leg under stretch, exactly the position you're in at block clearance. This lift also has significant eccentric loading, which directly reduces hamstring injury risk. Number 4, Nordic hamstring curl. If you're a sprinter and you're not doing Nordics, you're leaving injury prevention on the table. A 2019 systematic review in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found Nordic curls reduce hamstring strain injuries by approximately 51%. They also developed the eccentric hamstring strength required to decelerate the swing leg before ground contact at max velocity.
Start with 3 sets of 3 to 5 reps. They are brutally difficult. Section: How to structure lifting around sprint volume. This is where most athletes destroy their sprint quality. They lift heavy the day before a speed session and wonder why their legs feel like concrete. Rule 1. Your top speed sessions are your highest CNS demand work. Nothing heavy within 24 to 36 hours before them. That means your max effort lift days should follow your speed days, not precede them. In-season structure, assuming 2 speed days per week, lift on days 2 and 4. Day 1 and day 3 are speed and power. Day 5 is typically a tempo day, low intensity, so lifting on day 4 won't impact it. In-season volume should drop, not intensity, volume. 2 working sets instead of 4. Same weight, less total rep exposure. Fatigue management is the job in season, not strength building. Off-season is where you build. 4 to 5 working sets, progressive overload each week, track your numbers. Section: What to drop. Power cleans are technically valid, but have a steep learning curve and a high injury risk when form breaks down under fatigue. Unless you were trained on them early, the time investment to master them is better spent on trap bar deadlifts and jump training. Back squats are not useless, but for sprinters, they should sit behind single leg work. If you're choosing between Bulgarian split squats and back squats for your only lower body bilateral movement, back squats are fine, but don't prioritize them over the 4 I listed. Outro: The weight room is a tool. Use it for RFD, for hip extension strength, for single leg power, and for injury resilience. 4 lifts: trap bar deadlift, hip thrust, Bulgarian split squat, Nordic curl. Build those. Everything else is secondary. Subscribe if you want more of this. Speed is built, not born.